you'll notice that either side of the machine that we've got two latches. This is actually to secure the lid of the press down, okay, and they're very easy to do. Starting from the center of the machine working towards me, we have here the temperature controller, okay, then we have the power on and off button, the timer, the pump switch, a vacuum gauge and a pressure adjustment gauge. The first thing that we'd like to show you is basic dry mounting. So it's sticking a picture, this time in this instance we're using just a movie poster, mounting this down onto a piece of card that we've got here. This is a piece of white display board that we sell, 2mm or 2000 micron thick. We're going to be just sticking this picture down onto this board. This time we're going to be using a product called a dry mounting tissue, which is called either Unimount or Tri-Mount. It's a double-sided adhesive, a heat-activated double-sided adhesive that will stick the picture down onto the board. It's exactly the same on both sides, and the idea is that it melts and bonds the two surfaces together. So we want to stick this picture down onto the board. So what we've got here, this is the dry mounting tissue. We'll just move our poster out of the way. Roll the sheet, or roll the dry mounting tissue out. We can lay our poster onto it. Okay. Then trim. You can notice here I'm leaving about 1 centimetre or ½ an inch all the way around the print. Just makes life a little bit easier when you're actually sticking it down onto the board, because we're going to trim all the board up. The board is a lot larger than the dry mounting tissue and the poster, so we can trim it all up in one go afterwards. So we're now going to mount the picture down onto this 2mm card or 2000 micron white display board. Using our tack rag, actually we'll just give this a little bit of a wipe over just to make sure that there's no dust or dirt on the substrate. Remember that when you're mounting and laminating, dust is your mortal enemy. So always make sure that everything's nice and clean. We can position the board, even just make sure, turning the print over, just make sure that the back of the print is nice and clean. Okay. Position it, centrally line it up so that the board, the tissue and then the print is going down in that order. Over to the press, into the press, slide it underneath the silicone, making sure that it's within the confines of the press, making sure that the poster is within the actual dry mounting tissue area. We can then roll back our silicone release film, making sure that it covers the dry mounting tissue. Close the lid of the press, pop the latches on, and then press the start button. You'll notice that we've actually got the timer set at 2 minutes and 20 seconds. The 20 seconds is basically to allow the time that it's going to take for the actual press to pull pressure, to extract all the air, and you'll hear the pump changes sound now, and we're just at pretty much at 2 minutes. Okay, so that's going to take, for that size of, for this type of poster on this type of substrate, using a Unimount or Tri-Mount dry mounting tissue, it's going to take approximately 2 minutes in the press. So you can see that the actual cycle, the machine is coming to the end of its cycle. It's counting down 23, 22. So we've got this preset. Well, at the end of, when it gets to drops down to 0, you'll notice that the pump will switch itself off. This will reset itself back then to 2 minutes and 20 seconds. We can then undo the latches, take the work out. So pump switches itself off, as you can see, 2 minutes 20 seconds. Air is allowed back into the press so that it's going to be easy when we undo the latches, just to lift the lid of the press up. Just be a little bit careful when you're lifting it up that the silicone doesn't come up with it. That has a tendency then sometimes to crease the silicone release film, so the better that you can protect it yourself, the longer it will last. So again, we're just going to roll it back, get the silicone release film out of the way. So we'll lift it out, get it onto a flat surface, onto your workbench, put it onto a cutting mat. We'll actually absorb the heat, so it takes the heat out of the board quite quickly and allows it to cool nice and flat. All you need to do then is just trim it out and it's ready for framing. Okay, we'd now like to show you how to heat seal a picture. Some people ask us whether you can dry mount and heat seal all in one go. The answer is yes, you can do it. We wouldn't recommend that you do it. As dry mounting only takes a couple of minutes in the press, you're better off sticking the picture down onto the board first, getting it nice and flat, lined up with the board, all happy so that there's no movement, the print isn't going to move around at all, and then heat seal it as a second stage. So we've got this picture. This is the picture that we've just dry mounted earlier. This is already mounted down onto the board. Now with this picture, we're actually going to trim it out flush and then frame it. So what we're going to do is we're going to heat seal it, and using the gloss luster or the Satin X heat seal film, we've cut a piece that's slightly smaller than the board. Because we're going to trim this out, it doesn't have to overhang. If the print was flush, then just allow it to overhang a little bit. So we've cut it a little bit smaller. Okay, we'll fold back around about 2 inches, 5 centimeters of the release line, and put a crease in there. Take your tack cloth, again, caution when you're using a tack cloth, making sure that you're not going to damage the print at all. Okay. Take our heat seal film, position it onto the board. Okay, just tack it down, and again, if you just roll up the heat seal film, again, just give that a little wipe down underneath. We can pull away the release liner. Again, if there's any creases in there, we can just lift it back off, smooth it down, making sure that it's nice and flat and there's no creases. Then we're going to pop this into the vacuum press. So over to the press. Again, because we're heat sealing, it needs to go under the foam, on top of the silicone release. Close that down, close the lid down, put the latches on, and we're going to start the timer. 5 minutes and 20 seconds. Satin gloss luster heat seal film or Satin X heat seal film, 50 micron, 5 minutes in the press, plus the 20 seconds. So we're going to just bake that. And what you'll also notice is that we've kept the silicone release paper. So once that's processed, we'll show you something that's going to happen with this. Okay, so now that we've processed the print and we've heat sealed it, taken it out of the press, it had already been dry mounted, but we've now heat sealed the surface of it. We can either cut it out, leave it like that, cut it out and frame it, or for added effect, what we're going to do, the silicone release paper that we took off the back of the heat seal film earlier, we're actually going to use this. We're going to scrunch it up. We're going to scrunch it up into a ball. Really go to town on it. Take out some of your frustration. Really scrunch it up. Now this can only work properly with the gloss luster or the Satin X heat seal film. We wouldn't recommend it for any of the others. The texture, the embossed texture, doesn't come through well enough. What we're actually looking to achieve is a leatherette type finish. Okay, so once we've scrunched it up nicely, we're going to just smooth it. Oops, fold it back out. Okay, that gets laid silicone side down, silicone side face down, over the top of the print, and we're going to pop this back into the press. Again, on top of the silicone release, okay, underneath the foam, so the foam goes up over the top. Making sure that the silicone release underneath is still in line. We'll close that down. Put the latches on, and then we'll start it again. We're going to leave it in there for another 5 minutes. The longer that you leave it in there, up until about 10 minutes, the deeper the texture you're going to get. So leave that in there for 5 minutes and we'll get a nice leather finish. Okay, so that we've processed this, we've taken it out of the press, and as you can see, it's got a crushed antique leather effect over the surface. Again, we can trim this out, and that again is ready for framing.